Greetings everybody, I am John Carter and this is our Continental News. Today we're talking about geography, politics, economics and more. But first, this is Henry Jones talking about culture.
Thank you, John. Now we're going to talk about culture. The business law began this Saturday, June 14, the Spanish tour at the Palace of the Mediterranean Games in Almeria, where the solo time has been hung. This new tour will pass through 26 Spanish cities, in which the Almerian will present his new proposal on live with new songs from his album You and I, and a performance even more sophisticated than in his recent concerts in Argentina, Uruguay and Mexico, where he has performed for more than 130,000 people. His return to Spain coincides with the release on sale of You and I tour edition, including a short film directed by Quique and starring Mayo Maria Valverde and other extra contents. Today, June 16, we have some breaking news from Paris. Sadly, one of the most famous bridges in the world, the Pont des Arcs, famous because of the large amount of love locks which were placed on its fences by thousands of boats, began to collapse due to the high weight of all these love locks. Paris Mayor Anne Hidalgo, as a consequence, ordered the removal of all the love locks. The Pont des Arcs will never be the same again. An international love symbol has disappeared. We go back to you, John.
Thank you, Henry Jones. And now with us is ECC talking about economics.
I'm ECC and I'm going to talk about economics. This chart we borrowed from the Council of Foreign Relations shows why so many people are urging European Central Bank's chief Mario Draghi to cut interest rates and take other steps to stimulate the European economy. The blue line shows the nominal average rate businesses can be borrowed money at in the Eurozone. When Draghi promised to do whatever it takes to protect the Eurozone monetary union, he succeeded in establishing the sole nominal borrowing rates. But the purple line shows what is really happening, as the ECB's tight monetary policy has pushed inflation down to incredibly low levels that has significantly driven up the real cost of borrowing money. Cheap lending fuels economic expansion, and without it, companies are slow to grow. That helps explain Europe's economic growth and high unemployment, which, combined with this inflation, are putting pressure on Draghi to rethink the ECB's priorities. Thanks, and we are going back to John Carter.
Thanks. Now with us is Wallace Johnson talking about geography.
In 2012, they released about in the atmosphere 32,000 tons of carbon dioxide. The main responsible are China, the US, the European Union, and India. But here in Switzerland, emitted about 38 million tons of CO2. The oceans and forests are able to absorb only half of global emissions. The permafrost layer in the Alps gives consistency of the mountains, which is going to melt due to high summer temperatures. The reduction of permafrost increases the danger of landslide in the Alps. In the Swiss Alps, there are about 2,000 glaciers that cover about 2.5% of the land area. Sufficient increase in temperature of 2.1 degrees Celsius to melt and reduce glacial total mass. For the next days this week, Europe will have a diverse set of moderate climates, most of it cloudy with moderate rains, except Portugal, Spain, Middle West, Russia, Cyprus, Austria and Slovakia. Greece, instead, is going to have cloudy days with some sunny days, but most of it will be rainy. So for those who are visiting at Athens, you should wear some clothes according to the weather and protect yourselves from the sun, because in the beach it's gonna be very hot. For those who are visiting Cyprus this week, I suggest you to use some sunscreen to evade the sunlight, because it's gonna be very sunny for the next days. And for those who are visiting Norway, I suggest you to use some umbrellas, because it's gonna have a very moderate rain and we're a little bit concerned if it gets worse. In Iceland, Unfortunately, the races are going to be constantly presented for the next 14 days. So I suggest you to be aware of the race.
Thank you, Wallace. Now, Giancarlo Di Ponti with sports.
Hi, I'm Giancarlo Di Ponti and we're going to talk about sports. France is considering presenting a candidacy for the 2024 Olympic Games, said this Wednesday the sports minister Valérie Fournirion, after the failed attempt to get the country to host the event in 2012. However, France will only present a candidacy if they qualify, Fournirion minister said at an informative session at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. In 2005, after unsuccessful attempts to get the Games in 1992 and 2008, Paris looked favorite to host the event in 2012, but was surpassed by London. Last April, the Ministry of Sports and the National Olympic Committee created the French Commission for International Sports, CFSI, to shape the sports policy of the country outside its borders. It makes no sense to go for an Olympic candidacy only because we can't lead. We also need a strategy, said CFSI President Bernard Lapasset, who is also head of the International Rugby Board, IRB. The 2012 candidacy was led by double Olympic champion Sébastien Coe. The Paris was headed by businessman Philippe Bodillon, who was not exactly a recognizable face. But now it seems that France learned the lesson. We need the involvement of athletes in the beginning, said the double Olympic fencing champion Laura Fessel-Colovic at the session, which was chaired by the French Foreign Minister Laurent Fabius. We all have this great desire to host the Olympic Games in France someday. We're going to put our heart, our energy into it, but also our intelligence, our ability to build a project that meets the requirements of the IOC, he added. Also, one of the most important events in the world started this June 12, the Football World Cup in Brazil. Till now, even though it's the beginning, we've had some very exciting matches. For example, Germany-Portugal, which ended with a score 4-0, and England-Italy, which ended with a score of 2-1. One of the greatest teams in the world, Spain, had a big loss against Netherlands, which ended with a score of 1-5, which led Spain to be in the 4th position of its group. And we go back to you, John.
Thanks, continue. And now, Charles Yakamoto with social issues.
Hi, I'm Mr. Yakamoto, and today we're going to talk about the new European Commission campaign named No Mires al Otro Lado. This campaign is formed to combat the sexual application of children during the World Cup in Brazil, with some football cases like Kaká and Juninho. The campaign was organized by the European Union delegation in Brazil and launched by President of the European Commission, José Manuel Barroso. The campaign seeks to increase the public awareness of the sexual exploitation of children. The initiative will be in play in 15 countries in the collaboration with the End of Child Prostitution, Child Pornography, and Children Trafficking Organization networks.
Thanks, Yakamoto. And now, Crystal Waters with Hot Topics.
Today in Hot Topics we are talking about Google. Google started implementing a controversial data erasure provision for Europeans on May 30, giving users the opportunity to apply to have their names removed from the results of some searches. The development followed a European Court of Justice ruling that upheld an individual's right to be forgotten by deleting links to personal information that is outdated or inaccurate. An online form is now available on Google sites in European Union countries that give the users the opportunity to submit a request to have information removed. The form asks for identification of which links should be deleted and why. The right to be forgotten ruling and Google's response has raised a number of concerns about online censorship and the growing phenomenon of reputation management. Many experts say the global impact of the European Court ruling is unclear, but that it could lead to some difficult issues for both search engine owners as well as users. Also, we are talking about fertility treatment in Europe. Many European countries have strict rules on who is allowed to get fertility treatments. France and Italy forbid single women and lesbian couples from using artificial insemination and in vitro fertilization to conceive. Austria and Italy are among those banning all egg and sperm donations for in vitro fertilization. Germany and Norway ban donation eggs but not sperm. In Sweden, couples must be in a stable relationship for at least a year before qualifying for fertility treatment. And nearly everywhere in Europe except Ukraine, couples are banned from hiring a woman to carry a pregnancy for them. Dr. Franz Gimfield said placing bans on egg and sperm donation is discriminating against an unfettered couple. Mary Eriksson, a 36-year-old single mother in Sweden, described the restriction as prejudice. Having a child is not a right, but the possibility should not be forbidden because you don't have a partner, she said. Why are there so many restrictions? Reasons vary from country to country. Many cite concerns about creating unnatural relationships between donors, parents, and children. Others are driven by religious or cultural objections. Dr. Dobel Gleiher, medical director from the Center for Human Reproduction, a private clinic in New York City, said he is often dumbfounded by the position some European countries take on in vitro fertilization. The restrictions in many European countries would be unthinkable in other countries like US, Brazil, and Australia, Gleiher said, adding about 40% of his patients travel from abroad, many from Europe. So what do you think about European fertility treatment bans? Send your opinions at Eurochannel #fertility. In Europe, fees for refugees are needed. Around 4,000 refugees trying to cross the Mediterranean have picked up by the Italian Navy and trading vessels between Monday and Wednesday from last week. They were rescued from boats, some of which were unseaworthy. In view of the heavy burden, this puts on countries like Italy, the public broadcaster Deutschlandfunk calls for a fairer European refugee policy. For example, measures could be taken to ensure that refugees are distributed equally across Europe. Regardless of their point of arrival, establishing a quota like we have in Germany for distribution among the different federal states. And the problem also needs to be tackled at its root. That means, for example, extending the intake programs that have been set up for Syrian refugees, so that people who have had to flee their home country to escape persecution or war can come to Europe through legal channels without putting their lives in danger or having to pay smugglers. This takes time for sure, but there is one thing the European Union could do today far more clearly than it has in the past. Remind Italy that it must finally take decent care of its refugees, especially after the refugee drama of Lampedusa's coast last December. Now we're talking about conflict between Russia and Ukraine. The NATO has released imagery that shows that in May 30 there are no partisans in the Russia Union. Then in June 6 there are 8 tanks parked in this park. And finally in June 11 there are 3 parks, but there are 3 in training area and other 3 in the borders. These images raise a significant questioning concerning Russia's role in facilitating instability in eastern Ukraine and its involvement in the movement of military equipment from Russian territory into Ukraine. It is important to bring relevant facts to light in an effort to ensure Russia remains publicly accountable for its actions. If the latest reports are confirmed, this will mark a grave escalation of the crisis in eastern Ukraine and in violation of Russia's Geneva commitments. Yesterday, the NATO general expressed his concern over these reports and again urged Russia to complete the withdrawal of its military forces on the border with Ukraine. He called on the Russian Federation to meet its criminal commitments and cooperate with the government of Ukraine as it implements its plan for promoting peace, unity, and freedom. Mrs. Granson said NATO was considering long-term measures to ensure the protection of its allies. He blames Moscow for the separatists rising in East Ukraine, where the death toll rose of Saturday after pro-Russian separatists shut down an army transport plane with 49 soldiers. And tensions are also high following Russia's annexation of Crimea.
Thank you. And now with the last topic, Aladdin Sassafras with politics. Today we're going to talk about the relations between China and the Great Britain. In this special case, the Li Keqiang visit to Great Britain. With a date for the tea with the Queen in the back of the Chinese premier, Li Keqiang this week, Beijing decided to place Britain ever so gentle on this place. Britain now ranks behind Germany and France, among the 3 main powers in the Europe region. The Chinese ambassador Liu Xiaoming declared on the eve of the Emirates' 3-day visit to Britain, which starts on Monday. The remarks by the ambassador, who highlighted a series of missed opportunities by Britain, ranging from the failure to building a third runway at Heathrow to an already restricted visa regime, showed the definite challenge in managing diplomatic relations with China. The Prime Minister of Great Britain, David Cameron, in common with all these immediate predecessors, believes that Britain must have forged a strong political and economic relationship with a country that is on course to move ahead of the US as the world's largest economy. But the remarks by the ambassador show that China has little time for the usual diplomatic necessities, I'd like to remind European countries in general. And now, one with such a sensitive colonial past, in particular, just who is top dog in the 21st century.
To conclude, all sides seem resigned to acknowledging the overwhelming economic might of China. These relations seem to be a good benefit for both sides. Well, thank you. Back with you, John Carter.
Thank you.